Hey, do you guys remember the TV show Friends?
Of course, there's no doubt that the show has influenced a lot of people's lives. It ran for 10 seasons, was watched by millions of viewers, and has embedded itself in today's society. But we can only begin to understand the true effect of this media text by evaluating it through a more sophisticated lens.
Have you ever heard of Marshall McLuhan's media theory? It demonstrates how media is an extension of ourselves, and this applies to the show. For instance, we see each of the characters as an extension of our own personalities. The friends themselves have such diverse personalities that a part of everyone relates to each one of them. Viewers like to see themselves as creative and quirky like Phoebe, confident like Joey, smart like Ross and Chandler, loyal like Monica, and trendy like Rachel. While the show was on air, the Rachel became an extremely popular hairstyle. People saw Rachel as an extension of part of their inner self and showed that by replicating their hairstyle.
Another way that the show is an extension of ourselves is that the characters on the show are an extension of our friend group. In a way, when we watch the show, we see ourselves as part of the friends' social circle. When we watch the friends drinking coffee in Central Park, our emotions and thoughts are extended and we feel as if we are part of the conversation.
That's also a really good example of McLuhan's discussion of hot versus cool media. McLuhan concludes that television is an example of cool media because it is high in audience participation and low in definition. The show does not give you all the information like a hot media source such as radio. Instead, you have to fill in the gaps, making you think and actively participate. This is also part of how the viewer comes to feel as they are part of the friend group and actively participating in the conversation, such as you said before. McLuhan also argues that media can heat up over time. In the context of Friends, we as viewers actively participate more as we learn to know the characters over the 10 seasons, and therefore feel even more so a part of the friend group and their conversations. This can be seen in our continual use of the language and colloquialisms introduced by the show. To this day, we still mockingly compare on and off again relationships to that of Ross and Rachel, and passive flightly acts as pulling a Phoebe, almost as they are our friends and we are a part of their show.
McLuhan is also really famous for coining the phrase, "the medium is the message." Friends is a great example of the idea that the medium is the message. As a television show, Friends aired on NBC on Thursday nights from 1995 to 2004, during the time slot of what was known as NBC's must-see TV. NBC dominated primetime ratings, filling the night with all of the best sitcoms and comedies. The messages portrayed by the show Friends were not nearly as influential to society as the fact that millions of people accommodated their lifestyles, schedules, social patterns, living room layouts, and even eating patterns to see the 8 o'clock show on Thursday nights. In this way, the effect would have been the same whether it was Friends or another show that was aired off at this time. Therefore, the medium is the message.
Friends is also a really good example of postmodernism. In fact, it demonstrates several characteristics of postmodernism. Firstly, like many sitcoms, Friends demonstrates the use of hybridity. It blends several genres such as romance, drama, and comedy to make a well-rounded show that can appeal to a large audience.
Another way that Friends was so successful when it aired is that it contains postmodern ideas of the blurring of boundaries. This is the idea that class hierarchies no longer exist and everyone can enjoy all kinds of media. The characters in Friends display this blurring as well, as they all come from different financial backgrounds and they have vastly different career paths. There is Rachel, who comes from a wealthy family, Phoebe, who was once homeless, and Ross and Monica, who come from a middle-class family. Then there's Chandler, who works hard in a well-paying office job and helps to support Joey, who is a struggling actor. This diversity makes the media text relatable to a large audience, making the media text very successful.
Friends is also an excellent example of bricolage. Many sitcoms existed before the TV show Friends. However, experienced sitcom writers David Crane and Marta Kaufman noticed that there wasn't a sitcom directed towards young people, which was a large audience market they could tap into. They blended old ideas from existing sitcoms they had written to put a new media text on the market that was in high demand.
Did you know that there is one media text in particular that influenced the writers in the creation of Friends? It demonstrates the use of pastiche. Both Curtin and Kaufman worked together on an American sitcom called Dream On, before they teamed up to create Friends. The sitcom Dream On was largely geared toward an adult audience. It was based on the life of recently divorced editor Martin Tupper. It followed his career, family life, and romantic life, and how he made his way in life in New York City. Friends features many of the same topics, but adapted them towards young people and their friends, rather than family. Throughout the 10 seasons, we follow the romance between Ross and Rachel, and as well as the career path of Rachel from an unskilled minimum wage waitress to a successful fashion consultant. This is also an example of how postmodernism is said to reflect society's insecurities and uncertainties. In both of these sitcoms, the characters are trying to make their way in the world, although they have certain feelings of alienation.
I've heard that Friends also displays society's uncertainty of the breakdown of certain traditions such as family. NBC President Warren Littlefield liked the idea of producing Friends because he felt that family was becoming less important to the modern world and that friendship was taking its place. The sitcom has a very modern perspective on the family. It displays modern ideas of what a family can look like, such as Ross raising his child alongside his ex-wife and her female partner. It also shows people can share the same bonds as friends as between family. For example, in the episode The One with Football in Season 3, the friends blend all their family traditions and share a meaningful holiday together as if they were a family.
Friends displays postmodern ideas of intertextuality and parody through its references of the American soap opera, The Days of Our Lives. The Days of Our Lives contributes significantly to the plot of Friends. This is where character Joey Tribbiani finally makes his break as an actor. The Friends show often use this to make fun of the original show. For example, Joey's character, Dr. Drake Ramore, suffers a violent death and then comes back to life. Unrealistically, that have only been 36 characters come back to life. On the original Days of Our Lives, perhaps a little unrealistic.
This leads into some of the broader characteristics of postmodernism that Friends directly points at. Postmodernism often displays playful and ironic elements. Friends is remembered for its hilarious comedy. It also caters to the postmodern society's 3-minute culture, often having multiple plot lines going on at the same time in any given episode. The show keeps the audience's attention by showing a few minutes about what Ross and Rachel are up to, then flips and shows how Joey is struggling to pay his rent, all in the same episode. Lastly, another characteristic of postmodernism is that the idea that there is a larger emphasis on image and style rather than on plotline. In Friends, this is portrayed in the characteristic sets and fashionable characters. The purple door with the empty yellow mirror frame is iconic to the show, as well as Rachel's hairstyle, as we already talked about.
If we're discussing Friends, we should talk about audience theory.
While Friends was a sitcom, the producers tried to incorporate educational and learning aspects into the show for the younger viewers. An example of this would be in the episode where Dr. Ramore dies. This is when Rachel and Monica fight over the last condom because both of them want to have sex with their boyfriends that night.
Another good example of it is the one where Rachel tells Ross because Rachel finds out that she's pregnant, and her and Ross have a conversation about the effectiveness of condoms.
Yeah. This is passing on the information to the younger viewers, sparking their interest and pursuing them to ask questions. A study showed that of the 1.6 million teens who had seen one or both the episodes, most of them remembered specific information about condom efficiency, and 10% had subsequent conversations with an adult about condom use. In audience theory, this refers to the use and gratification model. In this case, the audience is using the media text to gratify need for information.
The gratification model describes the audience using the media text to gratify needs for comparing lifestyles and relationships to one's own. In Friends, at times, they have lost their jobs, struggled on low incomes, and got stuck in careers they hate. Many can compare their lives to these situations, especially today's student debt-ridden 20-year-olds as they struggle to find work and afford their first home.
Also in Friends, the effect model is reached. When you look at the 10 seasons, there's a lack of black actors with speaking roles and many gay jokes being made. Friends is an unforgettable history lesson in the casual homophobia and racism widespread in 90s television. This connects back to the effect model because the media text has an effect and influence on the viewers, especially the young children and teens that watch Friends. The audience is passive and powerless when trying to prevent this influence. Whether the audience likes it or not, the sitcom impacts their brain and allows them to think that racism and discrimination are okay. This information has been injected into our brains through Friends.
Continuing with the effect model, the power lies with the message of the text. We can connect this to the producer trying to buck the common television double standard of criticizing women who have casual sex while glorifying men who do as well. The producer is showing this double standard throughout Friends, trying to send the message to the audience to kill this contradictory. Therefore, the power of this lies in the message that the audience wants to interpret.
Although there is evident cultural bias as Friends features all Caucasian middle-class characters, the show was very successful and able to reach a large audience. The show demonstrates aspects of McLuhan's media theory, postmodernism, and the audience theory. These theories show how Friends impacts today's society as a media text.